The morning felt just like any other. I had a cup of black coffee in my hand, and my laptop screen was full of unpaid invoices. My head hurt from another night without sleep. I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone, and I definitely wasn't in the mood for my younger sister, Lauren, showing up like she always did. No warning, no knock, just walking in like she owned the place. Before we go on, tell me in the comments, what would you do if this happened to you? Be real with me. We read every single one. Anyway, let's get back to it. Lana, my phone's dead. Let me borrow your charger, Lauren said as she walked in. She threw her expensive Louis Vuitton bag on my couch like it meant nothing and dropped her iPad on the table with a loud clack. I gave her a small, tired smile and pushed my charger toward her. I'm working, I said, keeping my voice low. Yeah, your little invoice life. You're such a saint, she said, rolling her eyes. She plugged in her phone and didn't even look at me again. She was already busy tapping away on her iPad. She left it open when she stepped outside to take a phone call. That's when everything changed. I didn't mean to look, honestly, but the screen lit up. A notification popped up with my name, Jacqueline, in big letters. It was from a group chat called Fam. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I don't know what made me do it, but I tapped on the message. She's literally a doormat lol. Like, she'll just pay the bills and still thank us for dinner. Lauren, just keep telling her she's appreciated and she'll keep paying your rent. Dumb girl has no backbone. Dad, she thinks love means sacrifice. Let her suffer. Just smile and nod. Mom, just pretend to care. She's useful AF. Cousin Laura. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't just one comment. It was a whole thread of messages, and they were all about me. I stood there frozen. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was like something had broken inside me. I read the messages again and again. My hands were shaking as I took screenshots of everything. I couldn't believe the people I had been helping all year were saying these things. I had paid off Dad's car payments, helped with Lauren's credit card bills, covered Mom's medical expenses, and never once asked for anything in return. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought love meant showing up when people needed you. But now it felt like I had been used, lied to, made into a joke behind my back. That morning started like any other.
But it didn't end that way.
I didn't notice the spa receipts at first. They were tucked inside the folder where we kept all the bills. I had been living off plain rice and eggs every day, trying to save money. I skipped meals, wore old clothes, and told myself it was fine because I was helping my family. Meanwhile, they were out there enjoying steak dinners and fancy spa treatments without even telling me. And they thought I was too dumb to notice. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the screen. The messages in the group chat still flashed in my mind. Instead of feeling broken, I felt calm. Strangely calm. I made a quiet decision right then. Let them keep thinking I'm the doormat. Just for one more day. One last day. That night, I cooked dinner like I always did. I made meatloaf and garlic mashed potatoes, Lauren's favorite. She ate it on my couch with her legs up like she owned the place. You're too good to us, Jacqueline, Mom said during our family video call. She even wiped away a fake tear. Yeah, Dad said while chewing. You've always been the glue holding this family together. Lauren gave me a wink. Don't ever change, sis. You're perfect just the way you are. I smiled, but only with my lips. Inside, I was done. Perfect just the way I am?
Sure.
Let's go with that. After I cleaned up the dishes, I opened my laptop and sent out 5 emails, one to my accountant, one to my lawyer, and one to my landlord. Then I turned off the lights, sat by the window, and watched as they all left for the night. They didn't know anything had changed. They still thought they had fooled me, but they had no idea what was coming. The next morning, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No loud knocks at the door. No text from Lauren asking for money to go out for brunch. No missed calls from Mom trying to guilt me into sending money for family needs. There was only the soft hum of the fridge and the clicking of my fingers on the keyboard. I hadn't slept much, but I felt more awake than I had in years. I opened one last email and typed out a message to my bank. The subject line read, "Immediate freeze, joint accounts. Then I turned off my phone. That was it. No more money going into Dad's account. No more paying off Lauren's rent. No more sending money for Mom's insurance. It all stopped. Now they can open their group chat and figure out how to pay for their own lives. Without me. Without the doormat. I didn't go outside to run away. I just needed to breathe. I walked through downtown, past all the usual places. The corner cafe where Lauren once yelled at me for using almond milk instead of oat milk in her latte. The boutique where Mom accidentally used my credit card to buy a $2,100 coat. She still told everyone it was on clearance. Every place I passed reminded me of how much I had given, and how little they had given back. But today wasn't about them anymore. For once, it was about me. I walked into the office of Cynthia Nixon, one of the toughest lawyers in the city. I sat down and handed her a thick stack of papers, screenshots from the family group chat, proof of money sent, and everything else they didn't think I'd notice. She looked through the messages. Her eyes narrowed, and then she looked up. "I take it you're ready to stop funding their lives?" she asked. "I'm not just done," I said quietly. "I want everything in writing. A clean break. I want records of every dollar I ever gave them. And if they try to come after me, I want to be ready. I want to file for civil restitution if I have to." Cynthia smiled. Just a little. It was the kind of smile that cuts. "Honey," she said, "you've come to the right place." That night, the storm hit. It started with a voicemail. Lauren's voice, loud and angry. "Jacqueline, what the hell? My card got declined at Zara." Then another message. "Dad's car payment didn't go through." And another. "Mom says her prescription didn't get filled." A text from Mom. "Sweetheart, is something wrong with the bank? Your father's account says 0. Please fix this." Then came a call from Dad. I didn't answer. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my desk. The group chat started to light up like a Christmas tree. "Lauren, what is happening?" "Mom, Jacqueline, call me now." "Dad, you better fix this. I swear to God." "Cousin Laura, wait, are you mad about that?" "It was just jokes." "Lauren again. You're being dramatic. You've always been too emotional." I stared at the screen, calm and quiet. I watched their panic grow with every message. They were falling apart, confused, helpless. For years, they had walked all over me, used me, laughed behind my back. Now they were the ones on shaky ground. Finally, I typed one message. "I know everything." And then I left the group chat. But that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. Let them sit in the silence. Let them feel what it's like when the person they called useful disappears. Let them live without the one who held everything together. Let them figure it out. Without me. I wanted them to feel what life was like without me. Really feel it. The next morning, I took a day off from work. I got in my car and drove to the house I grew up in, the same house I had helped pay for over the years. In fact, without my money, they probably wouldn't even still have that house. I remembered how I used to sleep on the pull-out couch in the living room just so Lauren could have the only guest bedroom. That memory used to make me proud. Now it just made me tired. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. Of course. But I knew the spare key was still hidden in that same fake rock beside the front steps. Some things never changed. I let myself in and walked straight to the dining table. That table had seen a lot of family dinners, the kind where they smiled at me, said thank you, and then sent nasty messages behind my back the minute I left the room. I sat down and opened the suitcase I had brought with me. Inside were folders full of papers, bank statements, receipts, and proof. Proof that I had spent over $89,000 helping them over the past 6 years. I laid out the folders across the table, side by side. I didn't leave any out. When they walked in later, they would see everything. No yelling, no arguing, just the truth in black and white. On the wall above the table, I taped a single note. "I was your backbone. Now stand on your own." That evening, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 50 missed calls. The last voicemail was from my mother. Her voice was shaky. "Jacqueline, please. We didn't mean any of those things. You know how families joke around. You're just taking it too far." I didn't even listen to the whole message. I deleted it. They weren't sorry for what they said. They were only sorry that I found out. Now that the money had stopped, they were starting to fall apart. And fast. The next morning, I heard a knock at my apartment door. Not a text. Not a call. A knock. I opened it to see Lauren standing there. Her makeup was smudged. Her fancy hair, normally styled at a blowout bar for $440, was now in a messy bun. She looked nothing like the girl who used to walk into my apartment like a queen. "I just want to talk," she said, arms crossed. "Can I come in?" "No," I said. She blinked, like she hadn't even thought I might say no. "I said I just want to talk," she repeated, this time with a sharper tone. "Look, I know you saw the chat, but you took it the wrong way. We were just joking." I didn't answer, because I wasn't laughing. I leaned against the doorframe, looking right at Lauren. "That joke cost me my savings," I said quietly. "Oh, come on," she huffed. "You're acting like we're monsters. We love you." "No," I said, calm and steady. "You loved what I did for you. That's not the same." She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Fine. Be dramatic. You always were. But you'll come around. You always do." That's when I smiled for real, but not the way she expected. "Not this time," I said. And then I closed the door. Later that day, I sat across from Cynthia Nixon again. She was ready for me. On the desk in front of her was a thick packet, legal documents. "This outlines every time you were financially taken advantage of," she explained. "It shows how your family asked for help under false stories and never paid you back. We can either file it formally in court or just deliver it to them to make a point." "I want them to see it," I said. "I want them to know exactly how much they took and that I'm done." She nodded. "I'll have it delivered by courier tomorrow. But Jacqueline, if you want to walk away right now, you can. You don't have to do this." I didn't even pause. "I want to do this," I told her. "It's not just about getting even. It's about getting my life back." And I meant it. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't trying to keep the peace or fix everyone else's mess. I wasn't saying it's fine when it wasn't. And that silence, the quiet that followed when I stopped chasing their approval, it felt good. But silence doesn't last long in families like mine. 3 nights later, I was standing in line at the grocery store. My cart was full of normal things, fresh food, real ingredients. Not the instant noodles and cheap snacks I used to survive on while sending my money to everyone else. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "Jacqueline, wait." It was Laura, my cousin. She jogged up to me, smiling like we were best friends. The same girl who had called me a useful idiot just a week ago. She reached into her fancy designer bag and pulled out a small gift bag. "I wanted to say sorry," she said, holding it out. "That group chat was wrong. I get it now, and I feel really bad." I opened the bag. Inside was a half-used scented candle and a $12 Starbucks gift card. "Seriously?" I looked up at her. "Do you think $10 and a candle make up for 6 years of being used?" Her smile faded. Her face stiffened. "You don't have to be bitter, Jacqueline." I looked her in the eyes and said, "This isn't bitterness. This is boundaries." And I walked away. "Bitter?" I asked, raising my voice just enough for the man in line behind me to look over.
"No, Laura."
Bitter was me working overtime so you could take vacations with your friends. Bitter was me watching you wear clothes and shoes I didn't even know I paid for. I held up the scented candle she gave me. This is pathetic." I placed the gift bag on the store counter and walked away without another word. That's when it all began. The whispers, the lies, the rumors. My family turned on me like I had betrayed them. Overnight, I wasn't the helpful daughter or the giving sister anymore. I became the selfish one, the cold-hearted one, the one who abandoned her family during their hardest times. But I didn't back down. I sent each of them a full copy of the legal packet.
Dad, Mom,
Lauren, Laura, everyone. Every page of proof, every receipt, every dollar I had given them. Along with it, I sent one final message. From now on, I only pay for myself. That same night, I did something for me for the first time in years. I booked a weekend trip to Hawaii. Just me, a quiet cabin in the woods, no Wi-Fi, no texts, no calls, and no one asking for money or favors. When I got there, I sat by the fireplace and drank my coffee while watching the snow fall outside. Real coffee. Not the reheated cup I usually drank after dealing with everyone else's problems. It was peaceful. So quiet. No yelling. No guilt. Just silence. But peace doesn't last long when your family is used to having control. When I came home, I unlocked my apartment door and stepped inside. Nothing seemed missing. Nothing looked broken. But something felt wrong. The living room was too perfect. The couch cushions were arranged, but not the way I left them. My favorite mug was turned just slightly on the shelf. A photo from my college graduation, one of the only pictures where my dad actually showed up, had been flipped face down. Then I saw it. On the kitchen counter, in neat handwriting, was a note. It wasn't on fancy paper. It was scribbled on the back of a grocery store receipt, the kind you get from the corner shop near my building. You think you're free of us. You're not. There was no name. No signature. No signs of a break-in. Just that sentence in cheap black ink. I stood frozen in the doorway, still holding my suitcase. My heart was pounding. It wasn't a robbery. Nothing was stolen. It was a warning. A quiet threat. Someone wanted me to know they had been here. They wanted me to know I was being watched. This wasn't about money anymore. Now it was personal. I called the building manager and asked to see the security camera footage. He told me the cameras had gone offline 3 days ago because of maintenance. How convenient. I went straight to the police and filed a report, but they didn't take it seriously. There were no signs of forced entry, no items stolen, just what they called a family misunderstanding. To them, it was nothing, but to me, it was everything. I took it seriously because I knew what it meant. The next morning, I got to work. I changed every lock on every door. I installed new security cameras. I bolted every window shut. I upgraded the alarm system. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. Then I called Cynthia, my lawyer. I need restraining orders, I told her. For every one of them. There was a pause on the other end. Even your parents? She asked. Especially them. Another long silence. Then she said, Okay, I'll get started. But I knew something deeper. I wasn't going to live in fear. That's what they wanted. Fear was their tool. It was how they kept control over me. But I had something they never expected. I had my voice. So I used it. I wrote a blog post for a site called Real Women Rise. At first, I published it anonymously. The title was The Doormat Diaries, how my family used me and how I finally said no. I didn't hold back. I wrote everything about the group chat, the money I gave, the lies they told, the way they pretended it was love when it was really manipulation. I told the world how I kept giving until I had nothing left. Within days, the post went viral. Comments poured in. I thought I was the only one. You're brave for telling the truth. This is my story too. Women from all over the country shared their stories. Sisters who paid for everything and got blamed anyway. Daughters who were made to feel guilty for saying no. Women who were drained emotionally and financially in the name of family. My story became more than a story. It became a voice for people who were too scared to speak up. That's when my family started to panic. Lauren called me from a blocked number. She left a voicemail in a fake sweet voice. Jacqueline, how could you share our personal problems with strangers? You've embarrassed us. Are you proud of that? Then my dad sent a text. You just made yourself look weak. Family forgives, strangers don't. Mom emailed me a long message about forgiveness. For paragraphs about how blood always wins. But it was too late. Their version of the story had been exposed. They weren't the caring, loving people they pretended to be. Now, the world saw the truth. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't ashamed. I felt free, finally, like a weight had been lifted off my chest. But just because I felt clean didn't mean they were done. 1 week later, I got a letter in the mail. It looked official, printed on formal paper. At the bottom was my father's name in bold. You owe us. The letter listed everything they claimed I borrowed over the years. Furniture.
Food.
Shared bills from when I lived at home during college. They even included small things like phone bills and groceries. The total? $29,051.99. I laughed so hard I actually cried. But Cynthia, my lawyer, didn't laugh at all. This is a move to scare you, she said. They're trying to get ahead of things. They want to either push you into court or make themselves look like the victims. They're trying to change the story. Let them try, I replied. I have the truth. They have lies. But this time, they weren't the only ones with a voice. The blog I wrote had caught the attention of a podcast producer in Savannah. He reached out to me after reading my story. Jacqueline, he said, have you ever thought about telling your story out loud? On air? I wasn't sure. The blog had already helped so many people. Did I need to do more? But he said something that stayed with me. Your words helped people. But your voice, your pain, your honesty could help even more. So I agreed. I recorded the episode using my real name. No more hiding. I shared everything. The lies, the group chat, the money, the emotional pain I had swallowed for years. I spoke the words I had kept buried inside me. The podcast episode aired on Tuesday. By Sunday, it had been downloaded over 3 million times. People weren't just listening. They were reaching out. Messages poured in, letters, emails, donations, offers to help. Some even came from lawyers who wanted to represent me for free. And just like that, I wasn't the quiet girl in the background anymore. I had become the storm. 4 days after the podcast came out, I got an email with the subject line, "Family lawsuit withdrawn." They had backed down. Cynthia confirmed it. No judge believed their story. They folded, not because they were sorry, but because they saw I wasn't scared anymore. 3 weeks later, I moved into a new apartment. It was smaller, quieter, but it was mine. No unannounced visits. No guilt-filled texts. Just peace. Peace I had earned. One afternoon, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it and saw Lauren. No fancy makeup. No expensive clothes. Just tired eyes and something that looked like regret. She held out a folded letter. "Please," she whispered, "just read it." I took it, closed the door, but I never opened it. Months passed, and I never looked back. I started doing something new with my time, something that made a real difference. I began teaching financial literacy workshops for women. I told them everything I had learned the hard way. How to manage money, how to set boundaries, how to spot emotional manipulation that hides behind the word love. I told them what no one ever told me growing up. Saying no doesn't make you a bad daughter, sister, or friend. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strong. It makes you free. The women who came to my classes often cried. Some had been giving their paychecks away to their families for years. Others had never bought anything for themselves because they felt guilty. I looked them in the eyes and said, "You don't owe anyone your peace." And little by little, I watched them grow stronger, just like I had. Then one day, I was walking through town when something stopped me cold. I looked into the window of a small cafe, and I froze in place. Inside were my parents and Lauren. They were sitting together at a corner table. They looked tired, a little older, not physically sick, but worn down, the way people look when they've lost control of something they thought they'd always have. They were laughing at something, smiling. For just a second, I felt that old pain in my chest, the ache of missing them. The part of me that still wished we had been a real family, a loving one, the kind that didn't hurt each other in silence or behind screens. But then I remembered everything they had said, everything they had done. I remembered all the nights I cried alone, feeling used and unloved while they lived off my effort. And so I took a deep breath and kept walking. They had each other. And I finally had me. I didn't need to turn around. I didn't need to go in and pretend things were okay.
I didn't know them that.
I had given more than enough for one lifetime. Now I was living life on my terms. My money was mine. My time was mine. My future was mine. I had new friends, a new job, and a quiet apartment full of peace and fresh coffee and books I actually had time to read. I laughed more. I slept better. I cried less. And every time I helped another woman take her first steps toward freedom, I knew I was doing something good, something real. I was no longer their helper. No longer their backup plan. No longer their doormat. I was free. And that was more than enough.